Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. Hope everybody's doing well on this snowy, cold Tuesday morning up here in Montana. I saw a post from a friend, Greg, who's down in the heat of Mexico, got out of the cold, and I'm like, I'd like to be down with him this morning. But I'm drinking my coffee. I got my University of Pennsylvania mug, not because my daughter's there, but because my special guest David is from there. So I have that Pennsylvania, Philadelphia mug in David's honor. And before we introduce David, I want to remind people, go to enjoylifesafely.com and get on the newsletter if you haven't yet, and check out the different resources there. A lot of stuff to help you stay safe, enjoy life, and be exceptional. Now let's get on to our special guest this morning. David Newman is a certified speaking professional and a popular keynote speaker. I actually met him at an event he was speaking at years, if not decades ago, and have followed him and learned from him ever since. He's the author of a new book, Market Eminence, 22 Strategies to Build a Bold Personal Brand, Become a Business Celebrity, and Drive Unstoppable Growth. We're going to talk about that book today. David works with founders, mid-market CEOs, and professional service firms who want to play bigger, grow faster, and become a category of one. David's previous books are Do It Selling, fantastic book I talked about the other day. Do It Speaking, another great book if you're a speaker. We talked about that the other day as well. And an international bestseller that's been translated into 6 languages, the Do It Marketing book. Fantastic book here, and this one's sort of special because you can see my copy is signed there. So all of those great books, if you want to know about selling, speaking, marketing. David's also the host of a globally ranked top 1% podcast, The Selling Show. Check that out if you want to know about selling. And he has over 500 episodes. So please welcome David Newman. And David, I'd like you just to cover anything that I missed to tell people a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh. So Alain, that was an amazing, fantastic introduction. This is my favorite show right here, folks. This is it. And you are my favorite host. I've never had anyone hold up. They talk about the books, but holding up the books going, well, he's the author of this thing. And then he wrote this thing. And we met 10 years ago. Actually, I think it must have been like 2009. 2010, we're well into 15 years, at least 15 years.
It's been a while. It's been quite
you and I are connected. So thank you for that amazing intro. The only thing I would share with people by way of getting things rolling here is I started this business 23 years ago. And like most corporate refugees, people that leave a corporate job and things like a paycheck and benefits, when I started out, I knew absolutely nothing. Like I was hopeless. I was clueless. I was broke. It took me a good long time to figure any of this out. And what I'm saying is, and as we get more into some of this content that we're going to share, Alain, if I can do it, my friends, you can too. Because early on, I made every mistake in the book. I made the good ones twice, hit every dead end, hit every pitfall, manhole cover. If a manhole cover was open, I would walk into it and fall down. So it's been a long, strange trip, but I'm very excited to be here with you and your folks watching.
Well, thank you, David. And Dixon's here and said, howdy from Texas. Thank you for being here, Dixon. And everybody, if you have questions, comments, be sure to go ahead and throw them out here. If you're joining live, we'll answer those. And David, the first thing I want to talk about is I want to back up a little bit and talk about Do It Selling, Do It Marketing.
Sure.
What is the difference?
Well, so the Do It Marketing book is, and that was my first book from 2013. That was a small business marketing book. And to me, let's talk about the difference between marketing and selling. To me, marketing is everything that you need to do to get to the initial first human-to-human conversation, whether that's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom call, whether that's someone walking into your store or place of business. What does it take to get someone to raise their hand, knock on your door, virtually or physically, and say, hey, I'd like to talk. I think you can help me. I think that we may be able to do some business. So everything that leads up to that first contact, I consider marketing. Once you're in that initial conversation, that to me is the demarcation point. That's where the sales process starts. And so when I wrote the first book, and there's what is it, 2013, there's 10 years, actually 10 years difference. So they're 10 years apart, those two books. What I realized when most people came to me with a marketing problem, or they thought they had a marketing problem, what they really had was a marketing problem and a sales problem. So if you look back into the Do It Marketing book, about 30% of that book is about sales. It's about sales and selling. And there's even a chapter in there, a section rather, called the S word, because most small and solo business owners really hate sales and selling. So I called it the S word to, say, oh, this is taboo. This is scary. This is bad. Sarcastically, of course. It's not scary. It's not bad. It's simply having a conversation with someone to see if and how you can help them. And so if that's scary to you, then I think we got to reprogram some mindset and some bad sales experiences that you've had as a prospect. And that's the other difference, I think, that with most marketing books and even most sales books, they look at it from the professional side, meaning from the professional marketer or professional seller. I look at it, and I wrote those two books wearing both hats, because whether you're talking about marketing or talking about sales, in both cases, we are both a marketer and we ourselves are being marketed to. So we are leads, we are prospects, we are consumers, if you will. In the sales process, we've all had horrible buying experiences and horrible salespeople doing horrible things to us. So lying, manipulating, hiding things from us, not being fully invested in our best outcome, but being more fully invested in their commission check. And so understanding that the way that we need to sell is the way that we feel comfortable being sold to, that putting those two things in alignment, that you as a prospect, why in the world would you treat someone differently when they're a prospect from the way that you like to be treated as a prospect? So basically, it's about humanizing both sides of that equation. When we're marketing, it's very important to offer value and invite engagement. And that's actually one of the first concepts that I talk about at the beginning of the Do It Marketing book, that if you don't like the word marketing, if this whole concept of marketing scares you, get rid of the word marketing and replace it with 4 new words: offer value, invite engagement. With the Do It Selling book, I make it very, very clear in the early part of that book that one of the differentiators of that philosophy that's in the Do It Selling book, it is specifically designed for people who hate to sell. Specifically designed for people who absolutely hate to sell, wish the whole sales process would go away, wish they could outsource it, delegate it, get rid of it, bury it under a rug somewhere, and just have prospects magically appear and give them money. By the way, if you ever figure that out, how to get rid of the sales process and just have people magically show up and give us money, call me and we'll go 50-50 in on that deal. So that's the real difference between those two.
That's awesome. And I just wanted to point those books out because I think they do, like you said, they go well together, and wanted you to explain the differences and what's in those books to people.
Yeah.
Jay and Vicky said, good morning. Thank you guys for being here. Thad said, good morning from Montana. Thank you for being here, Thad. Now let's shift gears and talk about your new book, Market Eminence. And the reason I'm not holding this one up, folks, is if you saw the show a couple days ago when I talked about David's books, I held up my Kindle. I only have Market Eminence on Kindle right now because the hardcover is coming out in January.
That's right.
But there's what it looks like, and you can get the Kindle right now. You can wait till January to get the hardcover. What was the thought process, and why did you write this book at this time?
Well, that is the $64,000 question. And when I look back at all of my previous books, and this is like 2025, 2026 environment that we're in. The robots have taken over the world with AI. Content is now, cheap, free, and ubiquitous because ChatGPT and all the other AI tools can crank out, millions of terabytes of content way faster than humans ever could. So we're now faced with a new problem. It's not really a marketing problem, although it's part of marketing. It's not really a sales problem, although it is part of selling. Here's the problem that this book is setting out to solve. What does it take to get ourselves, our businesses, our products, our services, our cause? What does it take to get noticed in this hyper noisy, AI-driven world? And when I look back at all of my previous work and working with clients and working with professional services firms and working with individual speakers, coaches, consultants, this whole concept of what is your secret sauce that only you can deliver, and how do we communicate that secret sauce without being salesy, without using hype, without using jargon or cliches? That is a thread that runs through everything that I've always been writing about, teaching, preaching, etc. So what I've done is I have condensed, and this book is really short. I mean, it's short, it's dense, it's like a flourless chocolate cake for all you flourless chocolate cake fans. And the problem that we're solving with how do we get seen, how do we get noticed, how do we be considered uniquely different, it's three pillars. There's three building blocks of this that we tackle in the Market Eminence book. One is visibility. And so visibility is simply about getting seen, but not getting seen everywhere, getting seen in the right places, specifically by the right people, because no one buys products, services, or expertise sight unseen. So job number one is to get seen. Number two is to, when we're getting seen, to engender a sense of respect. And to me, respect comes from understanding your target market so well, so intimately, that they feel that you have installed video cameras in their office, you have installed listening devices on their phones, and you are describing their pains, problems, heartaches, headaches, even the positives, the goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations. You're describing them so specifically that you almost know your prospects better than they know themselves. So at that point, their feeling about you is, wow, you get me. Alan, I was listening to your show. I felt like you were talking to me. I went to your website. I read the homepage, and man, I felt you wrote that homepage for me specifically. So that is going to immediately elevate your sense of respect that you're getting from your fans, followers, subscribers, etc. And then the third element is brand preference. And this one is kind of fun. And this one is the one where people, I think, have the most difficulty, because it's a combination of positioning and differentiation so that you're conveying the idea that it's risky, dangerous, and dumb to buy from anyone else. And I'll repeat that just for the sake of our viewers and listeners. It is risky, dangerous, and dumb to buy from anyone else. So sometimes people think, oh, is this about gimmicks? Is this about being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian? Is it about, PR stunts and doing crazy stuff? And it's not. It's the opposite of that. It is being radically helpful. It is being radically generous. And it is being more authentic and transparent. So saying what you believe, believing what you say, and being that beacon, being that lighthouse that is illuminating the harbor. So showing the little boats, where are all the sharp rocks? Where's the danger? And how do you navigate safely around the danger? And you do that lighthouse task by showing people what's real, what's not, what to believe, what not to believe, where things are going in the future. So a little trend spotting and future casting. And so all of those building blocks are broken down into the Market Eminence book. But those 3 pillars, everything falls under those 3: the visibility, the respect, and then the brand preference.
That's awesome. And Jay said right on a little while back. I think you said right on when you were talking about providing value and so forth. But,
yes.
Yeah. Now, we have these 3 pillars. The book has 22 strategies.
Yes.
And those are a little bit more mindset strategies, aren't they? Or some of them are like, yeah, do this, but some of them are think this way, think that way. Correct?
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So going back to AI and content and what kind of content should we be putting out there, the fact that, the mindset always has to come first. So the most powerful kind of content you can share now, it's no longer how-to. AI has taken over how-to content. Ain't no way we're going to compete with that. How-to is dead. It's done. Stick a fork in it. No more how-to content. We're humans. And Alan, you're great at this with this daily show. You're amazing at this. Not how-to, but how to think, right? Higher level, strategic, insight-based. And so how-to is information-based. How to think is insight-based. So how to think is frameworks. It's mindset. It is some contrarian belief shifting that you think it's over here, but it's really over there, right? You think your problem is A, but your real problem, the underlying root cause problem, is B, right? So separating the wheat from the chaff, separating the signal from the noise, being a radical truth teller in your industry, I think that kind of how to think framework is hugely important, because as we're recording this, and I think for the next foreseeable future, AI is not great at doing that. And I'll tell you why. How to think is uniquely human because it comes from your personal experience. This is super important to underline this point. It comes from your human experience, meaning your battle scars, your war stories, what you've seen, what you've done, what you've learned, and how that uniquely filters through to what you're teaching, what you're selling, why you're different, why it's awesome, what's your backstory, where have you come from? Again, battle scars, war stories, what have you done, what have you learned? So from a perspective of deep authority that is rooted in lived experience, lived personal experience, lived professional experience, having worked with hundreds of clients or having done thousands of hours in your area of expertise or professional skill. Something like that, good luck getting AI to produce that kind of insight. It can't, because this comes from you. Not only does it come, I'm pointing to my chest here for the folks that are listening to the audio version of this. AI is great at this. AI is great at computational processing, pattern recognition, and aggregation of content that is already out there in the universe. If you want to absolutely guarantee that you sound like everyone else, please use ChatGPT to create all your content, because it will just put it all in a big giant blender and it will spit out the best of what's been said before. And that is not the path to market eminence. So up here, right, the head, and in here, the heart, putting the soul back into your marketing, putting the soul back into your expertise and your client attraction and your lead generation. One of the early things that I say in the Market Eminence book is, if you're ready to grow your business by being more of who you are, and not by being more, but by communicating more, by amplifying who you already are, amplifying what you already believe, amplify what you already stand for, and amplify what you already stand against, and making that transparent and authentic and vulnerable, that AI cannot compete with. And guess what, my friends? You win.
That is awesome. And I want to comment two things. One, I love that because, I just completed a big self-defense course, putting a lot of techniques and stuff, but one of the modules is mindset. And in that course, I said, this is the most important thing, because you can learn in self-defense all the physical techniques in the world. If you don't have the proper mindset, you're not going to be able to defend yourself.
That's right.
And there are people that have that survivor's mindset that have defended themselves successfully without knowing any techniques.
Yes.
And so that is always the most important.
Yeah.
And the second thing I thought of when you're saying some of that is how AI gets stuff wrong so often.
Oh my gosh. Totally.
A perfect example is the other day I wanted to see, I knew that I saw Stig Rossen. He's from Denmark. He did the lead in Les Miserables when my wife and I saw him in Seoul back in the 90s. And I was wondering just what month that was. And so I Googled, when was Stig Rossen in South Korea? And Google came back, the little AI answer, he's never been in South Korea. I was like, no, yes, he has. I saw him. I was there. And then finally came and said, oh, well, I found a newspaper when he was in Hong Kong saying they were going to South Korea next. So that recollects with your memory, and AI is telling me. But yeah, it gets stuff wrong so often.
It is at best a B student. It gets it right 85% of the time. That might sound great, but it is shockingly terrible. And especially if people take the AI output as is and then publish that or rely on that for some, client-facing decision or fact-finding or research, it is really easy to get egg on your face.
And so many, I don't understand why people publish that stuff. You see stuff on Facebook, happy birthday so-and-so. Like there was one recently, it said something about happy birthday Mike Tyson and had him like 70 or 80 years old. And he's not that old. I mean, they get these years all wrong. And then people are posting this and other people are replying happy birthday. And it's perpetuating nonsense and stuff that's not true.
Absolutely right.
Jay and Vicky were saying right on, like the stuff you were talking about. That's awesome. What can let's dig in. Thad was here. Thad's an attorney. He does a lot of estate planning, different things. We went to law school together way back when, been friends forever.
Wow.
Let's say Thad is looking at wanting to dominate the market here in Missoula for estate planning.
Sure.
What would be a couple first steps for, somebody like, using him as an example, but make it where other people can learn too?
Sure. So I'm going to give sort of a 3-part formula, and then we'll talk specifically about estate planning because I have a fun example of that. So the 3-part formula, we already mentioned part 1, which is how to think, high-level strategic insight-based content, not, based on your own personal experience. Number 2 is myth busting. So the second thing for Thad and for everybody is, what are some common myths? What are some half-truths? What are some outdated beliefs in your industry that are not serving clients, but that, it's like the elephant in the room. So shifting beliefs, busting myths, sharing what is missing, funky, broken, and sad about your entire industry. So the legal profession, estate planning in particular, perhaps. And then the third area is how to get ready for what's coming next. So where to focus for what's coming next. What's coming 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the road? How can you see around corners? How can you avoid being ambushed, surprised, or blindsided by something that you could have seen coming, but nobody was smart enough or generous enough to share it with you, and now you're in hot water in some way, shape, or form. So those are the 3 types of content that will elevate you to a real level of market eminence. How to think, what to believe, and what not to believe. And then number 3, where to focus for what's coming next. So let's go back to our friend Thad. Actually, it's your friend Thad, because Thad and I haven't met yet. But one thing he could do, so let's talk about seminars, because sometimes estate planning attorneys, they have seminars, they have, hey, how to get ready for whatever. Imagine if Thad walked into a room and he's got maybe a handful of clients and then 10, 15, 20 people who are there for the coffee and donuts. And he starts a slideshow. And the slideshow has people on there like Prince. It has people on there like, I forget a couple of these other examples. These are people, famous people. So Hollywood people, movie stars, TV stars who died without a will. And he is just sharing all of these stories about what happened, where the money went, what the legal disasters and entanglements, all the wasted money, all the wasted time. But we're talking about superstars, right? So what did happen to Prince's estate because he had no will? What did happen to, James Dean, I think, is another one. James Dean had a ton of money, died at a very young age in a plane crash. And what happened to James Dean's money? So, and again, I'm using Prince. I'm using these people from, James Dean obviously is from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Why? Because people who are in estate planning, clients rather, that you're trying to attract, probably not young, right? So you start talking about Taylor Swift's estate plan. They're like, who the hell's Taylor Swift? If they're 70 years old. So it's target appropriate, right? It's going to be names and faces that they recognize. And it's going to be these horror stories, these terrible things that happen to these famous people who had no estate plan, had no will, had no documents. Everything was a disaster. It's an entertaining, fun 45-minute talk. It's insightful. They learn things because everyone's interested in celebrities and movie stars and music stars and rock stars. And at the end of this, people are in a quiet panic. And they're probably turned to each other, right? Let's say a husband and a wife around age 60 are in the audience. Hey, you know what? We should probably talk to Thad. Oh my God, we should totally talk to Thad. Are you kidding? Did you see that disaster? And our documents are out of date. We'd actually never finalized our documents. We did like a do-it-yourself job 15 years ago through some online website, and obviously not good enough. We need to talk to Thad. So it's not Better Call Saul, but it is we better talk to Thad.
Nice. No, that's great information. Dixon said, thank you, AI, for the dumbing down of America.
Yes, I love that. Dixon, plus three on that answer.
Now, one of the things you said about the market eminence, I remember from the book, was podcasting. We're on a podcast now, and you're on a podcast. How can people effectively use podcasting to help them dominate their markets?
Sure. So once you've done all of the work as far as the positioning, the differentiation, all of the articulation and distinction of how you are cooler, better, faster, smarter, different, the safest choice, the smartest choice, then we need to go into amplification strategies. And one of the amplification strategies is absolutely podcasting. Initially, it's podcast guesting. So when I'm talking to a client, when I'm talking to an audience, like, oh, I have to start a podcast now. You do not have to start a podcast now. But you do need to be on podcasts. Like I have the privilege of being here on Alain's podcast. And the reason that podcasting is important for you is you do not need to build an audience from scratch. You can borrow an audience of a host where people are already paying attention. So if you have some expertise in your profession, which most people do, there are going to be contrarian insights, beliefs, all of this kind of stuff that we've been talking about. So the 3 kinds of content, right? How to think, what to believe, how to get ready for what's coming next. These would be fascinating to a podcast host. And so you just start podcast guesting on the specific shows that appeal to your exact target market. You do not want to be on the biggest shows. First of all, you will never get onto the big shows that have millions of downloads and millions of viewers, nor do you want to. Because remember, this is a marketing strategy and a sales strategy and a lead generation strategy. So you want to get niche, you want to get specific, and you want to get highly targeted. And there is a fantastic website that a lot of people don't know about, which is the search engine for podcasts, and it's called Listen Notes, listennotes.com. And you can search by shows, you can search by guest, you can search by topic, you can search by host. It is a wealth of information to kick off your podcast guesting strategy. And then all you need to do is write a very simple email, short, my friends, please, short email to the host, outlining 3 to 5 bullets of how you can serve their audience. What's your topic? What's your angle? And then start getting booked on these shows. The reason this is an amplification strategy, it gives you access to audience and listeners who otherwise would have never heard of you. You would have never come in contact with them. And then what you do at the end of that show is you give some sort of resource or link where people can opt in for some additional value related to the content that you just shared on the show. So that way people can raise their hands, say, yes, I'm willing to trade my email address for some additional value. I loved what you said on the show. Now I want to go a little bit further. I'll sign up for your newsletter. I'd love to get your PDF download. I want to get your resource pack, whatever it is. And then you start building an audience of your own based on all of your podcast appearances that you've been on.
That's awesome. Now, the website you just mentioned, is that a free resource that people can go use?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
because there are some paid things too, where people, they want you to pay for them to help.
I think that's a huge mistake. There are, and so I'm, as you mentioned very kindly in the intro, I'm also a podcast host. Whenever a guest, because I love to tee up my guests, because I sort of know the game, right? They're not here just to add value. They're here to add value and generate a little bit of awareness for what they do. So I will say, what are some links we can share? How can people get more of you? And they say, well, if they want to book an appointment with me, here's my appointment link. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, you want to go from a first date to let's get married, right? Nobody wants to have a sales call. A sales call is not a benefit to anyone. So you got to walk before you run, before you fly. And in the walking part, if you've just heard of me for the first time, and many of these folks, so thank you, Thad and Jay and Dixon and everyone, they don't know me from Adam or Eve. Maybe I said some smart things for 30 or 45 minutes here with Alain. I so much appreciate you lending me your platform to add some value to your audience. If they've never heard of me from Adam or Eve, we are not going to go right to a sales call. That's not what they want. And honestly, that's not what I want. So we're going to take a baby step. And the baby step is, and again, it's right here, so it's no big surprise, right? If you go to marketeminence.com, you can buy the book if you want to, but you don't have to do that. Just get all the free resources. Get all the free resources, all the downloads, all the worksheets, all the companion tools and trainings, absolutely free. If you're so inspired then to go buy the book later, good for you. I appreciate it. If not, no worries, but I've added value to your life, to your business. I've given you some resources, some things that will make you more successful. If and when this becomes a problem that you need to address, I'm hoping I will be on that short list of people that you will consider coming to for that help. But again, in the spirit of we got to walk before we run, before we fly, I think the podcast guesting strategy, you do want to have something that gives the listeners of that show outsized value. So when someone gives, especially today with all the spam and all the craziness, when someone entrusts you with their email address, that is a pretty big step these days. Didn't used to be, but now it's a pretty big step. You want to give them outsized value. You want to give them amazing resources, help, guidance, templates, tools, scripts. It's not just, hey, here's a one-page PDF. Thanks for opting in. You want to really overwhelm them with generosity. And they will remember that. And especially they'll remember it because so few other people, so few of your competitors are doing that.
That's awesome. And Thad said good strategies for estate planning, marketing. Jay said value is the key, even in donuts.
Yes, especially in donuts. Sign me up.
And so I want to make sure people saw that. Go to marketeminence.com. Got it big on the screen. If you're watching, if you're listening, it's marketeminence.com. And you can learn more about the book, but there are a bunch of free resources there that, as David just mentioned, that you can go and get, and they can help you. I've read the book. I've looked at the free resources. What is the first thing I must do to start creating dominance in my marketplace?
Well, I'm going to give folks a 3-part assignment. So no one leaves here without homework. So the 3-part assignment to take the first baby step into your market eminence journey is to define your contrarian slant. And I'm going to give you 3 questions to think about. You can just simply write down short phrases, keywords, bullets to answer these, and then I'll tell you what to do with it here in a moment. So question number 1, what conventional wisdom in your field do you secretly think is completely wrong, but you've never publicly challenged? So that's prompt number 1. Prompt number 2 is, what harsh truth about your industry are clients desperate for someone to finally acknowledge openly? I call that the elephant in the room question. And then number 3, what strong point of view do you already hold that makes other industry insiders, including your competitors, uncomfortable, but resonates deeply with your ideal clients? So those are 3 doorways into the same core stuff. And then what I want you to do with that is your very next LinkedIn post, your very next email newsletter that goes out, your very next video or webinar or sales conversation. Put that in there. Put that in there, and then you will start to see the response when people start to respond to you standing for something and standing against something. You being the advocate and the champion of industry change and reform and doing things right, and no longer taking shortcuts and busting the myths that have been myths or half-truths that have been holding people back. You will get responses like, oh my God, Alan, I just saw that LinkedIn post. Dude, you are on fire. You totally rocked. I can't believe you finally said that out loud. I've been thinking that for years. Or if they're on, you get the newsletter, you're on a video, you're on a live stream, you're putting out your next webinar, it will resonate. It will stand out. You will get comments. You will get thank yous. And you will also get a little bit of hate mail. So that's okay. I want to warn people in advance. If you're not getting hate mail, you're probably not doing this right. So the mantra that I write about in the Market Eminence book is, if you don't risk turning some people off, you will never turn anybody on. And we have to get away from this concept of being universally liked, because that's keeping you universally vanilla.
That's awesome homework. And I think that's a good place to maybe wrap things up. I want to remind people to go to enjoylifesafely.com to check out my stuff. But definitely, if you go to marketeminence.com, learn more about the new book, get those free resources. If you're interested in the other books that David has written, or to get a hold of David, also go to doitmarketing.com. doitmarketing as one word.com. You can learn a lot more about David and everything that he's doing there. So those are the 2 websites to go to: doitmarketing.com, marketeminence.com. David, any final words for everybody?
I would just encourage folks with 3 words. It's my 3-word mantra for success in any area of life. Action eliminates fear. So if you liked something that you heard, this resonated in some way, take those first baby steps. And trust me, my friends, action eliminates fear.
Awesome words. Jay said, great show. Dixon said, thanks for sharing your knowledge and insights. Everyone go out, make it a terrific Thursday. And I will be back tomorrow to see you on Coffee with Alan with a little bit of warrior wisdom and talking about self-defense essentials.